Hello and welcome to the Temple of Tomes with your host, Indie Comics Jones. Today is May 26th, 2021. This is episode 311, coming live again from California without my trusty tripod. Okay, boy, I feel like the quartering. It's my fifth review today, my fifth video, or even Perch, Comics by Perch. You could either say either one. Um, Today we're looking at Engine Ward. This is by Vault Comics, I should say. Number 10 is the run on this. This comes in a whopping $3.99. The cover depicts one of the zodiac celestials that we see here. You can see Earth is an ancient myth, and I'm not quite sure which guy this is. I believe it's Aries. But they don't go into a lot of detail about the celestials. They just kind of put them in here, and you're lucky if you get a name every once in a while. It's one of the complaints I have about this comic, but I have been sticking with it. I have been interested in the underlying story, so that's got me going. I do have some other issues with it, and we'll bring those up as we go along, as I have on all the other reviews I've done about Engine Ward. Working on this one is George Mann, the writer. The art is by Joe Esma, and I believe his art has actually gotten better as the issues have gone by. Colored by Michael Garland and lettered by Hassan Otsmane El Crew. And I apologize if I totally butchered that. Okay, we starts out, if you recall, Josh is the Engine Ward, and this is like the first time I've actually seen her falter at all. She's been pretty much nearly Mary Sue throughout this comic, but she was to retrieve a Terran stone and re-landscape the Earth that they're on, and it's not looking good as the Celestials have taken the Terran stone and they've taken it back to the town. She's trying to learn how to ride this beast so that they can ride back now that they're all healed up from the fighting and repaired. They actually have a robot named Creek who's been pretty funny throughout. Not too much Creek in this one, though. It's kind of the fun guy. Now we have Ichabod, which they rarely used in this, which is disappointing. The first issue, he was actually on the cover of the first issue, so he's kind of a Han Solo type character that they're just not using that much. So that's another complaint. The other complaint are these little side narration that go on. In this issue, however, they actually match the action that's going on, so it's a little bit easier. So Josh actually does get the hang of writing this thing finally. Meanwhile, back in the city, the civilians have finally had enough of being starved out and been cut off from the water and having all their possessions taken from them. They're revolting against the Celestials and the soldiers that protect them and work for them. And so they come after them all at once, this little revolution, and they take down some of the soldiers. They're ordered not to kill them, but just merely tie them up. And the food and water is then distributed. Now, within the Celestials themselves, here is Ares. I believe that's Ares. Okay, the other one must have been the God of War. I don't remember. You can see the board here, but within here, there is some infighting with the Celestials, and even though they are physically stronger and have certain capabilities, they can be taken down. Capricorn was actually killed, but he was killed by a Celestial, but it proved that they could be killed, and that's what gave the townspeople hope. Now they've captured, I believe this is Sagittarius. I'm not quite sure, and it's either that or Leo. I can't remember. It's kind of hard, but they capture her, so they're able also to. This is Scorpio, and this is maybe he's Aries the Ram. They're able to take them down as well after a brief skirmish where the humans were getting picked off pretty easily. But what happened was Josh and Ichabod came running in, charging in, and were able to knock out Scorpio there. Got a kind of a concussion, and take Ares prisoner, using this mystical power that Ichabod now has, given to him by what they call the Shades. Now, the Shades were thought to be evil. It turns out that they are actually good. And meanwhile, Scorpio limps back and he tells them what's going on. And Virgo just kind of calls him, weak and everything else. She's been conspiring. There's been like a couple factions within trying to gain power overall. And the shade that comes with Josh and Ichabod is verbally abused by the townspeople. Well, then Josh has to tell them to stop. It's not true. All these things you're saying, we were told lies. And then she goes into this whole speech here, which all these bubbles, and that was a chore to get through, honestly. But she describes how there was a ship of what they called sleepers, and there was a crew that was supposed to take care of them, and then the crew got jealous of the sleepers, so when they landed, they made the sleepers all their slaves, and now that they're dealing with the children of the sleepers, who are what they call the Celestials, and she's telling them that they need to rise up, fight as one. Meanwhile, back in the Celestial Palace, some little bathing goes on. They're kind of not taking it too serious, and actually Aquarius gets captured, so Virgo is starting to take down a lot of the members that aren't in her plan or they think is weak. They've also captured the person that's on the cover here, and that might be Taurus. I'm not sure. I wish they would give more description throughout this thing, and that is Pisces there. So it looks to be Pisces. Maybe that's Leo. Sagittarius is the one that was captured along with Aries. And she goes back to talk to the head that she stole from Josh to get more information. And we got the next issue here, which I believe that's Aries. Maybe it's Taurus, the bull. It's hard to tell. I don't know. But I wish they would be a little bit more descriptive on that. Plus, there's some profanity in here that just doesn't seem to fit with the flow of the story, because it's almost like a kid's story, and then you guys suddenly have F-bombs being dropped. So that's a little bit jarring. But other than that, I think it's got a pretty interesting story. It's just I wish it would have been put together a little bit differently, or different suggestions taken up. I don't see an editor on here, so I'm sure there was probably. But anyway, it is a recommend with caution. It's probably my least favorite comic that I'm concurrently reading, and I think there's going to be 2 more issues left after this. But it's just interesting enough to keep my attention. So it does get the Indie Comics Jones seal of approval, given out only by Indie Comics Jones. I am reading another Vault comic called Vampire the Masquerade, which I think has been excellent. And I think we've gone like eight issues through that. So I can highly recommend that one, especially if you like vampires, especially if you like the game Vampire the Masquerade. This one's more just for just interest. If you're just kind of into those dystopian storylines, a little bit of science fiction, a little bit of supernatural, kind of interesting characters, I think this is still a good comic as well. So thanks for stopping by and listening to this review. As always, please like, please subscribe, please leave comments, and we'll see you next time at the Temple of Tomes. This is Indie Comics Jones bidding you adieu.